Well, in the world of rock and roll, most musicians would give their eye teeth to be a one-hit wonder, and a string of hit singles is a dream come true. But very rarely does lightning ever strike twice, except in the case of a guy like this, who is not only the guitarist, songwriter, and driving force behind the legendary Guess Who, but also behind the equally legendary Bachman Turner Overdrive. Randy Bachman, welcome to Psychobabble.
Hi, good to be here.
Good to have you here. Now, for the record...
I'd still like to have a one hit.
Yeah.
No, one more hit wonder.
One more hit?
One more hit wonder.
Well, let me do a little ancient history, because I don't know if this story is true because I didn't get it off your official bio, but I read that as a young teenager growing up in Canada, an aspiring guitar player, you wanted to go see a Les Paul show, but you were too young to get in.
Yeah.
So you went down to the club, helped him set up, and he showed you a few licks, is that?
I went to the club to get in. I was too naive. I didn't, you know, you're 15. What's a drinking age to you?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear the guys playing on the radio. So I took the bus there. So I get to the club early. I'm going to be the first guy there. And I go there, and the club owner's there, and they're chopping things in the kitchen because it was a dinner club. They're preparing the food. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I came to see Les Paul." And he said, "Well, you can't get in. The drinking age then was 21. And I don't know, like 15 or 16. And he says, "So, sorry." So I got him sitting out in the front of the lawn waiting for the bus to come. A black Cadillac pulls up. "Hi, kid, what are you doing?" It's Les Paul. Mary Ford's beside him. There's a guy in the back who's his son, Gene, who was a drummer. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I came to see you and I can't get in. Could you sign this?" And I brought an album. So he signed the album. He said, "I'll get you in. Help me unload my stuff." So, which was 6 tape recorders, big Ampex single track tape recorders with a big cable that he attached to his guitar. So he'd play rhythm parts, push record, rewind, it would play back, then he'd play lead, and he explained to the audience how he did How High the Moon and Via con Dios, and how Mary Ford sang, and then she sang again. They walked throughout the audience like a Mexican mariachi band. They both had white Les Pauls that had a gooseneck on it. So wherever they went, the microphone was right there, a gooseneck mic, you know, one of those bending mic things, so they just walked to a table and played and sang. The son stayed on stage and played drums. I couldn't go out in the supper club, so I stayed in the kitchen, and I watched them through 2 big round glass windows that they had in the doors, so the bartenders and waitresses going back and forth wouldn't knock each other's trays out of each hand. So I was like watching the back of Les Paul and Mary Ford through this whole thing. But I see these tape recorders starting up and going and everything, and I see the magic nobody else sees. It's like being backstage on a magic act. You see that this guy's rolling down a chute and he's appearing in this thing. The audience doesn't see that. After he's done, he comes back and he's wiping his brow and says, "Here, hold this kid," and he hands me his guitar. And it had to weigh like 25 pounds. A Les Paul with a pulverizer on it, a Bigsby, and this microphone and all this big cable. So I hold the guitar, he wipes his brow, and he goes back out, and he comes back, and he says, "Can I do anything for you?" I said, "Can you just show me a lick?" The chromatic lick that goes down on How High the Moon, that's in every one of his songs that Jeff Beck plays a lot. And so he showed it to me. So like, fast forward 30-something years, I'm on tour with Van Halen. We play the New York, outside of New York in New Jersey.
Oh, Meadowlands?
Meadowlands, we play Meadowlands. He comes there. Sammy Hagar just joined Van Halen. Shakes hands with Sammy, shakes hands with Eddie. Does great playing, comes up to me and he goes, "Do I know you?" And I said, "I met you many years ago at the Rancho Don Carlos." He goes, "Oh, hold this, kid."
No.
And he said, "Do you remember the lick?" I said, "I sure do." And I played it. He said, "That was great. Do you want to come down to my club?" So I went down to the Iridium. I'm sitting in the audience. He says, "You know, guitar players come from all over the world here. It's Monday night." And he has a guy from down south, a black guy, who just plays the most incredible version of How High the Moon all by himself with finger chords on it, with chords on every note. And he says, "I have another guy who's going to come up and play a hit song." And he introduces me, and I'm stunned. So I go up there, and he says, "Well, I showed him a lick when he was 15, and I want to see if he plays." So they play How High the Moon, and I do the, you know, "Somewhere there's diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-doo, how high the diddle-diddle." I play the lick over and over and over, and then he says, "Let's do one of your songs." So I had taken care of business, and he and the trio played it with me, just the bass and the other guitar player, and that was amazing.
What an amazing guy. And if there's any aspiring young guitarist watching this, if you don't know who Les Paul is or what he did, not only
then
for
stop
guitar
playing
players,
right now.
Right.
Stop. Give up your guitar.
Do your homework. He revolutionized.
Watch the Liberace movie and get a piano.
Well, speaking of revolutionizing music, in hindsight, it seems fairly obvious to somebody like me that the combination of your guitar playing and Burton Cummings' voice was going to be a hit-making machine. But did you feel it when he joined the band instantly that this thing is going to work?
Yes, because even at that time, he had one of the greatest voices.
Incredible.
And when you're starting a band, and I was like maybe 17 when he joined the Guess Who, and he was like 14 and a half, he at that time could do Gary Puckett, Young Girl, and then he could do Eric Burdon. There's a house. You know, he could do the growling and the screaming. Then Hendrix came, he could do Hendrix. He could kind of do everything with his voice. He has this beautiful Irish tenor voice. He could basically be one of the 4 tenors, basically. You know, he has that good of a voice. And that control, and playing piano since he was 5, perfect pitch. There's no bad notes on a piano. You don't play the cracks. It's either sharps or flats, but you're playing the real keys. Where on a violin, there's all kind of in between. Same with the guitar. So he had perfect pitch. So when we got together, and just the call and answer of my voice and his guitar and the tonality of them both, we just kind of knew we had something. It was just a matter of staying together through all the thins.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of thick. Through the thin, through thin, through thinner, through thinner. And finally, you get a ka-ching moment, and you go, this is our moment. And then suddenly to go from These Eyes Laughing, She's Come Undone, No Sugar Tonight, No Time American Woman, like all in like 2 years or something like that, was just amazing. But we had built up for that 2 years for like 5 or 6 years of writing every Saturday, trying to copy the Hit Parade, trying to copy the writing style of Brian Wilson, Lennon and McCartney, Jagger and Richards, Bacharach and David, copying all these styles. Let's write a song like What's It All About, Alfie? You know what I mean? Us trying to write that kind of jazzy kind of thing with
So it
2
was a
chord bars
studied
and stuff.
thing.
Yeah, and I would wait all week and gather bits of records and things like that. And so would he, and we'd get together every Saturday morning and say, listen to this, listen to that. I got this from England, I got this from Germany. Listen to this little part. I love this part. Can we let's try to make a song out of this whole part? And he would do the same. And so we were basically bringing pieces of a puzzle and should make a new puzzle. Like, here's a great tree, you got a great rock, let's get the sunshine, let's get a flower, let's put it together, and we kind of put our own puzzle together.
And he was the keyboard player, but didn't you write that piano intro for These Eyes?
Yes. That's why it's so simple. I can play anything in the key of C in a piano. He said the reason it was so great is he would never play anything that simple. Just as if he would get a guitar, like I taught him to play guitar, because I would play guitar on all the records. We were missing that on stage. So I said, you just need to know these 4 chords.
Okay.
E, A, D, G, that's kind of it. And you put on a capo, and it's the same up and down the neck. It's not like a piano with all these juxtapositions of your fingers. So I taught him to play guitar, and so we can get by on record, and everything worked. And then we needed a flute. In Undone, I said to him, look, why don't we get a flute? And he said, a flute? And I said, yeah, you can play the flute. So we go into a Yamaha place, and he says to the guy, how do you play a flute?
No.
Yeah. And the guy says, have you ever played a blowing instrument? He said, yeah, in the high school band, I played a C melody sax in the little marching band. The guy said, the fingering's the same. And Burton went, what? He said, you just got to go like you're blowing out a birthday candle, real even, right? That kind of thing. So Burton picks up and starts to play, and a week later he played the solo on She's Come Undone.
Oh my God, that's
incredible. Bada bing, yeah, that's unbelievable.
And then after leaving the Guess Who, you went on to form a band called Brave Belt.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of years, and then in 1973 formed Bachman Turner Overdrive with Fred Turner, and again the hit singles started rolling. Somebody asked me, was Taking Care of Business, did you start that or did Elvis start that?
Are you kidding? I did it.
There you go.
There is actually, that exists, an HBO special that I saw many years ago. It was after Elvis died. So whenever he died, about 5 or 6 years after, they were interviewing Priscilla. And she was doing a tour of Graceland and talking to the guys in the band, and they asked her about Taking Care of Business. And she said, oh, I remember that vividly. We were in the car going back to the airport in LA to fly to Memphis. Elvis heard a song on the radio and said, turn that up. Who is that? And they said, oh, it's Taking Care of Business. It's some band from Canada. He said, I want that as my theme song. TCB, make the necklace. You're the TCB band, Taking Care of Business right away. That's what the lightning bolt is. And that became his motto.
Well, now, you've got a bunch of great stories about songs and where they came from, the genesis of them. Would you mind telling us the story of one of your biggest hits, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet?
Sure. I loved the song, Dave Mason's Only You Know and I Know. That tune, Only You Know, that that nice jangling rhythm. And so I'd always play around with that, because that would get me a great rhythm sound on a Stratocaster guitar, just playing that kind of rhythm. And so when I would produce BTO, we'd always have a work song that we would play through. So we'd go in and set up, play the work song, didn't really have any lyrics or anything. It was a groove with a light part and a heavy part. Then I'd go in with the engineer and hear the playback and say, I don't like the kick drum song. Let's tighten the head. Let's move the mic. Let's stuff it with a blanket, whatever.
So it's setting levels.
A setting up song, getting tones and levels.
Okay.
And as I'm doing the song, I start to stutter. This is to tease my brother, who stuttered. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, so I was the oldest guy.
Right.
And we always play pranks on each other. And so this is for me to scare him to death, stutter on the song, and say, we're going to put this on an album. I mix 1 copy on a cassette and put it away. I'm going to send it to my brother and scare him that it's going to be on the album. That's the last, and the older brother gets the final trick. The head of our label, Charlie Fash, flies in to hear the album. Now BTO2 has had Taking Care of Business and Let It Ride. He wants the song to get us higher on AM radio. That's where the cash is, right? We're selling albums like mad, as is most bands in the early 70s. He wants a little extra gravy or icing on the cake. That's top 40. That's the extra 20% of the money at box office and in the record sales. So we play him the whole album. It's Not Fragile. It's the beginning of like heavy metal riff rock or whatever you want to call that. And he hears the whole album. He goes, wow, I love Rock Is My Life. I love Rolling Down the Highway. I like Not Fragile, but that's really not top 40. Can you cut another album? Cut another song? And I said, Charlie, we've cut this in a week. We've got about 4 days at home with our family. We just came off a 90-day tour. We have another 90-day tour. We've got to go home and see our wives and kids. I hope they don't cry. When the stranger walks in the house, your little kids, when you pick them up, they cry.
Oh, man.
Your kids don't know who you are when you've gone 90 days. It's half of their life or 1/10 of their life.
They don't care if you're on the radio. They want you
No,
there.
they have no idea. Yeah. And so I said, that's the album, take it or leave it. He said, I guess I'll have to leave it till you could do another song. The engineer says, play this cassette. And he puts it in, he plays You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And Charlie goes, what's that? And he said, it's just a goofy song. I don't even know what it's about. I just sang any lyrics that rhymed, and I wanted to stutter like my brother. And just copies for him. He said, put it on the album. So it was put on the album. The way it is, the guitar's out of tune. It's pitchy. It speeds up and slows down. He put it on the album. It went to #1 in 22 countries, and so it was our only million-selling single. Sold about 3.5 million copies, which was like an amazing phenomenon to me. It was just.
And I think the lesson here is that it pays to torture your siblings. It pays big time sometimes.
It pays to. That's true. It pays not to take rock and roll too seriously.
I guess. Well, now you mentioned your radio show. Again, it's a Randy's Vinyl Tap, which we can listen to online.
Online, CBC Radio /Vinyl Tap or Sirius 169 in the States.
And over the years, you've done several reunions with the Guess Who, with Burton Cummings, a great thing for the fans. Then in 2009, I think it was, you got back together with Fred Turner, put out the album Bachman and Turner in 2010. Nice piece of work.
Thank you.
And then a live DVD, Bachman and Turner live at Roseland Ballroom in 2012, which I saw, and it's like time hasn't left a mark on your sound at all. Fred as well.
His voice, sound like we sounded. That's what's good about it.
Yeah.
And I have this band who's absolutely incredible. So all Fred had to do was show up with his bass and his voice, and he did. He walked in the room, our first rehearsal, and we had to do Sweden Rock. It was our first gig for 40,000 people. So we had a little warm-up plan in Winnipeg where we rehearsed in the same club, 300 people by invite only, and radio station winners to come that night. And Fred walked in and said, what should I do? I said, let's just get right into it. I played the beginning to Let It Ride. He went, you can see the morning. Like, that's it, we're fine. You know, everything was great, so.
That's incredible. I mean, yeah, what a stroke of luck that at 70 years old, he still has those pipes. That's incredible. So what's the future hold? More, you're touring? We're gonna have
more massages, more chiropractic.
Whatever keeps you on the road.
Yeah, it's like our pit crew. Hi, this is Randy Bachman. You're watching Psycho Babble with the Psycho Babbling Idiots, and I'm one of them.